Now, for the first time, former U.S. Attorney Matthew Schneider is explaining the role he played in debunking the lies that led to the January 6th attacks. He's a Republican who was appointed by Donald Trump, but that did not stop him from standing up to the former president's false claims about election fraud here in Michigan. Here's 7 investigator Ross Jones with an interview you will see only here on 7.
This should never happen again. People should not go to the U.S. Capitol, inflict violence, destroy property, and harm people because of their political agenda.
18 months since he left the U.S. Attorney's Office, Matthew Schneider has a story to tell, even if he wasn't looking to tell it.
I wasn't planning on ever talking about this in public.
But now that his former boss, Attorney General Bill Barr, has testified before the January 6th committee, Schneider agreed to talk to us about his role in investigating and disproving the false election fraud claims that led to the attacks on the U.S. Capitol.
If you count the legal votes, I easily win.
In the days after the election, Barr fielded calls from President Trump, who claimed he had ironclad proof that the election was stolen. Much of the fraud he claimed involved Detroit, where Schneider was U.S. Attorney.
I'm at home. Attorney General Barr called me. One of the first things he wanted to know about is these ballot dumps.
Big, massive dumps in Michigan and Pennsylvania.
But Schneider, who'd worked on campaigns dating back to John Engler's, knew that this wasn't unusual in Detroit, where the ballots aren't counted at the precincts, but brought to what was then the TCF Center and counted throughout the night.
I explained this to Attorney General Barr, and he accepted that. And it wasn't too long after that he called back, and it was very apparent that he was explaining this to the White House or to the president, and they weren't believing that explanation.
Working from home, Schneider was fending off false claims in real time from the President of the United States.
The president had been tweeting out about how is it possible that Joe Biden got 96% of the vote or whatever in Detroit? How is that possible? And I thought that was very possible considering what I'd learned in the past.
So he pulled up vote totals from the last 2 elections, telling Barr that Trump actually did better in Detroit than in 2016. Barr shared that with the president.
Did all the people complaining about it point out to you you actually did better in Detroit than you did last time? I mean, there's no indication of fraud in Detroit.
Over the course of weeks, Schneider would field several calls from the Attorney General, dispelling rumors about vote switching in Antrim County and other myths.
I got a call from the Attorney General's chief of staff who said, expect a call from the president any minute. And so what I thought was, well, evidently the president hadn't been convinced by Attorney General Barr at that point, and he wanted to hear directly from somebody in the field who was doing the work. Fortunately, the president never called me, and that's a good thing, because otherwise I'd be testifying in Washington, D.C. about this.
But 18 months later, the lies Schneider worked so hard to snuff out still burn. In his own party, Matthew Schneider has become an outlier. But he can live with that. As he reminded us, he swore an oath to the Constitution, not to Donald Trump.
What's surprising to me is that people are unwilling to accept what is evidence and what is truth. You know, my job is to, and always has been, to look into things and investigate them and to try to find out whether or not it's true.
Well, today, Matthew Schneider is out of public service working at the Honigman Law Firm in Detroit. I asked him if he could ever imagine returning to public office. Not right now, he said, maybe not ever. Not as long as the climate in Washington and in Lansing is this toxic. Carolyn?
Certainly a good report, and glad he was so honest. Thank you so much, Ross.